Coming up, fresh off a statement win over number 9 Ohio State, Juju Watkins and USC women's basketball set their sights on an even bigger challenge tomorrow.
A dynasty falls. The Chiefs are stopped by the Eagles on the way to a three-peat.
And USC men's volleyball gears up for the number 2 UC Irvine Anteaters. All that and more coming up on Sports Scene. Happy Crosstown Showdown week and welcome back to Sports Scene. I'm Casey Kasliner.
I'm Liam Irvin.
And I'm Chris Jose Nixon.
The Crosstown Showdown reaches new heights tomorrow night when the number 6 USC Trojans host the number 1 ranked UCLA Bruins at the Galen Center. Trojans looking to bring momentum from the big win against Ohio State Saturday at the Galen Center. Juju Watkins with a slow start, Kiki Iriafen and company filling in when needed. Kiki finished with 24 points and 13 rebounds. Finally, Watkins got going and the Trojans dub another top 10 Big Ten opponent. Final score 84-63. Lindsay Gottlieb had this to say following the big win over the top 10 ranked opponent.
Yeah, I mean, we've had tough games all throughout the year, and I think one of the things that puts us where we are in the rankings, whether you look at the quad one wins or whatever it is, that we haven't shied away from any competition, and we've been able to go on the road and win. We've been able to win at home. We've, I think, risen to moments for the most part against other really good teams, and that's what makes us better.
A top 6 showdown, city bragging rights, and a shot at taking down number 1 UCLA is set to be a battle for the ages. It all goes down tomorrow night. Chris has more on either squad's keys to success.
That's right, tomorrow's Crosstown Showdown features 2 teams with 2 combined losses. So here are our keys to the game. We've each identified one thing USC needs to do to hand UCLA their first loss of the season. Winners of 23 in a row, UCLA hasn't played in a single-digit game since, check this, November 4th. That game was their season opener against Louisville. They're coming off wins last week against Oregon and on the road against number 9 Ohio State at home. So what will it take to knock off this juggernaut? Well, Casey says that the key is for the Trojans bench to produce at a high level and outplay UCLA's. Liam thinks that the Trojans need to get out on the break and run for some easy fast break offense, and I say it's all about limiting the turnovers and getting shots up on as many possessions as possible. So those will all be easier said than done against this elite roster, which UCLA coach Corey Close thinks has the National Player of the Year.
You know, Lauren, to me, and obviously I'm biased, but is National Player of the Year with how she impacts plays on both sides of the basketball. And you know what? There's no one that plays a perfect game all the time, and that's why she's on a team. It's not an individual thing. And Lauren is spectacular, and we know that she'll always have our backs. You know, Lauren.
The Bruins boast a top core of physical rebounders, a cerebral defense, and surefire WNBA talent. Let's dive into USC's undefeated rival on this edition of Meet the Opponent. Now, I've got my eyes on junior guard Gabriela Jaquez, who arguably had her best performance of the season a week ago against Ohio State. While not a consistent three-point threat, Jaquez is an intelligent cutter and is shooting close to 60% on the season with a near-automatic free throw stroke. She connected for 17 points against the number 8 Buckeyes to complement Lauren Betts and keep the Bruins undefeated.
For my Meet the Opponent pick, I turn to the 5'11 point guard for the Gold and True Blue, Kiki Rice. Kiki is proving why she's the future of UCLA basketball, dominating as a floor general with elite vision. Alongside Kiki's athleticism and ball handling abilities, she averages 12.7 points per game, 4.4 assists per game, leading the Bruins, and snags 3.7 rebounds. Keep an eye on number 1 tomorrow night.
And for me, the X factor for this UCLA team is Lauren Betts. The junior is a 6'7" double-double machine who dominates on both ends. Betts leads the Big Ten in blocks with 2.9 per game this season. And offensively, she's second in the conference in points with 19.6 and third in field goal percentage, shooting over 63% on the year. So if SC does want to beat the Bruins, they're going to have to make her life difficult. So we each have our keys and our UCLA players to watch, but Liam, I'll start with you. Do you think the Trojans can pull this one out?
I think it's going to be a lot tougher of a task than the odds are making it. 23 turnovers last game. It was an efficient game against Ohio State. Juju struggled early, though. I think it comes down to what we talked about in our keys to success. you got to rebound the ball well. You got to box out all 5 people on the court at a time. 62 rebounds in that last game. That was a season high. You got to keep that energy going, keep that pace going. And then it turns to bench scoring as well, right? Juju and Kiki cannot do everything for this squad. You need people like Talia von Olhoff and Kaylee Heckel, those people getting involved. They had 20 combined bench points last game. That's important for them.
I'm going to say, just straight up, UCLA is winning this game. They have a 3-headed monster. We already talked about it. They haven't lost this year. You mentioned Juju. She is slumping heavy. I don't care if she scores 25 points in a night. She's been very inefficient. She's shot under 40% in the last 4 games. And look, I'll tell you this much. Kiki Iriafen will have to score over 30 points if USC wants to win this game. She's had plenty of good games. And look, USC has a big 3 of themselves as well with Smith, Kiki, and Juju, but they're not cohesive at all right now, and they're going to have to get on track if they want to take down a top team like UCLA.
Yeah, this is absolutely the best team in the country right now. We know they're undefeated. They're an extremely efficient offense. Right now, they're shooting 57% on 2-pointers. They're just getting easy buckets, easy looks all game long. They're fantastic rebounding the ball as well, just like USC is, but they're a little bit better in that sense. And, I mean, I agree with you. The team struggling right now, they're going to need Juju to bounce back 100% if they want to win this game. I know you talked about Kiki Iriafen scoring 30 points. We're going to need everybody, to show up for the Trojans if they want to get this one done.
So, Casey, say Juju scores 50 points. You think the Trojans aren't taking it at that point?
I think they do, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. 50 points. I don't know. I think she's going to have to work on getting 35 before we're talking into half a century there.
Yeah, I mean, I want to know what you think. He says he thinks UCLA gets it done. What do you think as far as the outcome of this?
I agree with what Casey is saying. I think it's going to be a tall task for the USC Trojans, but I think if they out-rebound and get more turnovers than the UCLA Bruins, that the USC Trojans will come out on top tomorrow night.
Hard to out-rebound a 6'7" player in Lauren Betts, though.
That's true. They have a lot of, we talked about the 60 rebounds the other night. They have a lot of great rebounders. I think Juju bounces back, and I think she gets the job done. But regardless of how this one goes, it should be an incredible game. And with
number one thing, take care of what's going on in our backyard. We got to eliminate the unnecessary turnovers. That's number one. Number 2, we've got to pound the boards. And it can't just be relying on Rhea and Kiki. We need our guards involved. So it's got to be a team rebounding mandate from everyone. We certainly need our bench to really match their bench and outplay theirs. And we have to make sure they're going to go on runs. Most teams do. But we can't afford to have them go on a second half 10-point, 10-0 run that puts us in a deficit that big of a hole headed into the fourth quarter.
So that was USC legend and Basketball Hall of Famer Cheryl Miller sitting down with our Kern Rastogi to discuss a little bit of what she thinks the Trojans need to do coming into this top 10 matchup tomorrow.
There's no way around it. I mean, they played great from start to finish. They got after it. Defensive line played really well. The DBs played well to complement them, and linebackers as well. And so, like I said, I mean, I can't turn the ball over early in the game when it's not going our way, and I'll have to learn from that and try to be better the next opportunity that I hopefully get. I thought our team played really well. I feel like I didn't play to my standard, just with especially the struggles that I had early in the season. And so there's things that I have to get better at, and they kind of showed today on the biggest stage. And so.
That was Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who failed to get the highly coveted three-peat with the Kansas City Chiefs losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. He couldn't work his usual magic on Sunday. He only threw for 33 yards in the first half. Kansas City didn't even cross the midfield stripe until late in the third quarter. And once they started scoring, the game was already out of reach. So I want to ask you guys, obviously the Chiefs have been a powerhouse this past decade, but is the dynasty over after they lose their second Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era, but this one was even tougher?
I think it's far from over is the obvious point here. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, you come up short in a big game like that. That was a game where, you thought a couple years ago against the Buccaneers that was kind of the O-line's fault. You pointed blame not at Patrick Mahomes. This game, definitely Super Bowl 59, was to blame for Patrick Mahomes. And I think the key to this game is that you're seeing somewhat of a new era in the NFL, kind of back to an older style of play where the trenches are going to dominate going forward. So, you see things like the tush push. You see things like the Eagles' offensive line having no guys smaller than 6'6". That could be a new strategy in the NFL going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that as long as Patrick Mahomes is a Kansas City Chief, there's nothing that's over. But, I mean, we're going to talk about it. They have a lot of work to do now with this roster. That was the first time that we've seen really Mahomes play a very bad playoff game. But there was still a lot around him that failed, and they're going to have to get some work done retooling and getting some pieces around him, especially, you know, that offensive line. They got shredded, that can put him in a better position next time he's up against a great defense to actually get the job done.
Well, I think the refs called a good game, and I think the Chiefs were exposed, but I want to look a little bit more ahead. The Chiefs have 27 free agents in this upcoming offseason. Not to mention Travis Kelce, there's talks about him possibly retiring. So the Chiefs are going to have to absolutely retool their offense. And I know, really, if, like you said, if Mahomes is under center, it doesn't really matter who's playing wide receiver, but I think this game showed that he was exposed and not just the perfect quarterback everyone's talking about. I think the dynasty is temporarily over. The AFC West is getting even better. The Broncos and the Chargers both made the playoffs. The Raiders are on the way up. They're going to have a top pick. I think it's going to be kind of like Tom Brady. You win a few Super Bowls, you take a few years off, build back the program, get some newer coaching faces in there, and then you get back.
Do either of you see a situation where Patrick Mahomes jumps ship like Brady and, you know, either pulls a retirement strategy or just decides he wants out of Kansas City at any point?
There's no way in my mind that I see Mahomes leaving unless Andy Reid retires. I don't think Andy Reid's going to retire anytime soon. I haven't heard anything about that. If that happens, I think that maybe he'll start thinking about it, but why would you leave? You're with Andy Reid. Even if Kelce does retire, I think you stick with what's working. Andy Reid's one of the best coaches of all time. But what do you think?
I don't think that's happening, but I will say, with plenty of uncertainty this offseason, the Chiefs really have to go back to the drawing board. While, on the other hand, Philly celebrates their second Super Bowl win.
The Philadelphia Eagles soared to victory in Super Bowl 59, clipping the Kansas City Chiefs' wings with a decisive 40-22 final score. Let's dive into what went well for the champs. Early in the big game, Patrick Mahomes trying to make something happen. How about a rookie cornerback on his birthday? Cooper DeJean is not a safety. Takes it all the way back to the crib, setting the momentum for the flock. 17-0 Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts making things happen. He finished 17 of 22 in this game, honors with the Super Bowl MVP, and to put the cherry on top, a long ball to Devontae Smith. Eagles win Super Bowl 59. So the Eagles soaring high beyond the play of Jalen Hurts. The trench game was the real dominant factor for the Birds on Super Bowl Sunday. After averaging 188 rushing yards per game during the season and boasting a defensive line with 50-plus sacks, both lines dominated throughout the game, which could play to an old-school strategy developing in the NFL. Led by quarterback Jalen Hurts and head coach Nick Sirianni, both early in their tenures, the youthful core suggests this could be just the beginning of a dominant era in the NFL.
Now we go to Campbell Donovan for how they celebrated Super Bowl Sunday across the pond.
London's favorite pastime is football, but not the kind we celebrate in the United States. One bar and restaurant in the heart of the city is gearing up for Super Bowl 59. Let's go check it out.
Just a tube ride away and a walk through this graffiti tunnel is one of London's hidden gems. Passyunk Avenue is a Philadelphia-themed sports restaurant and dive bar. Customers from all across the United States call it a home away from home.
When we first learned that there's a restaurant that is kind of themed as a Philly dive bar, it was natural we wanted to come. In general, this is kind of like a little mini American embassy where we can come and feel like we're back in the States.
With the Eagles-Chiefs rematch in this year's Super Bowl, Passyunk hosted one of their largest events since its opening in 2015. I talked to the founder about what representing Philadelphia means to them.
The Philadelphia sports culture, the Philadelphia sports team, the Eagles and the Phillies in particular, have one of, if not the largest fan groups in the UK. And I like to think we've had something to do with that.
The bar sold out its Super Bowl celebration tickets in just 24 hours, once again proving the enduring love of American football from 4,000 miles away.
Sports are culturally very important, right? Nearly everyone in the city has some connection to one of the sports teams in some way emotionally. And so it's a very important part of the narrative of what it is to be Philadelphian in culture and have some sort of connection to the city in that way.
But beyond Philadelphia, JP assured me that all fans of American football can find what they're looking for at Passyunk, even a Chiefs fan. For Annenberg Media, I'm Campbell Donovan.
So they usually watch a different type of football over there, but Passyunk Avenue feels like home for Philly fans over in London.
Still ahead, the Trojans men's volleyball squad gears up for a massive test as they take on number 2 UC Irvine tonight. And the 14-10 USC men's basketball squad looks to transfer momentum from a huge win Tuesday against Penn State. All that and more coming up on Sports Scene.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. It's been a busy week for Trojans athletics. Our reporter Scott Hills has more on the men's volleyball's big ranked matchup coming up tonight.
Thank you, Chris. Well, the men's volleyball team is off to a dominant start to their season, which has included a 9-0 start for the first time since 1991. The Trojans' dominant start to their season has included 4 ranked wins over Princeton, CSUN, Ohio State, and Penn State. Their most recent showing was a sweep against Dominican at the Galen Center last Saturday. USC's best season start in over 30 years has been in large part due to star outside hitter Dylan Klein's incredible accuracy as an attacker with 4.35 kills per set. As a team, the Trojans lead the NCAA in the blocking category and lead their conference in every category except for service aces. The Trojans' biggest test of the year so far will come tonight at second-ranked UC Irvine. The 8-0 Anteaters are also having a historic season with their best start since 2007. The team leads the nation in serving, so serve receive will be a key point for the Trojans in tonight's matchup. If USC wants to continue its winning streak, the Trojans are going to want to capitalize on the clean attacking percentage momentum we've seen from them so far this season and use their powerful block to stop Irvine's attack game. The Trojans are also going to look to use their whole offense. Between freshmen Sterling Foley, Parker Tompkinson, and veteran Dylan Klein, setter Caleb Blanchett has a variety of hitters on the front line. The Trojans will play at Irvine tonight and then re-meet the Anteaters at home on Friday in 2 highly anticipated matchups as they look to continue their positive momentum to start their historic season. Let's send it over to Casey at the monitor, who's got more on USC men's basketball.
Thanks, Scott. USC men's basketball is back home and in for some electrifying Big Ten action this week. Let's take a closer look on Big Ten Breakdown. Last night, the men of Troy bested one of their weaker conference opponents, Penn State. Chibuzo Abo made a career-high 7 threes for USC, and the team as a whole played lights out, shooting 67% from the field. The team was in much need of a victory after an unsuccessful road trip against Northwestern and Purdue. Desmond Claude returned to the lineup for 16 points and 8 assists. Still trending in the lower half of the Big Ten, the next portion of USC's schedule will be crucial. USC's lone ranked opponent remaining is Maryland, but they will have other tough bouts against UCLA and Ohio State. That brings us to their next matchup against Minnesota. The Golden Gophers have lost 3 of their last 4, including 2 losses of over 20 points. While not a top team, Minnesota has one of the conference's top players in Dawson Garcia, who averages just under 20 points per game. The Gophers are also sound defensively, second in the Big Ten in blocks per game with a solid scoring defense as well. As USC faces a Minnesota team that is merely 500 in overall play with a significant conference struggle this year, the Trojans should like this matchup. But USC has showed in the past that containing a 1A player like Garcia can be difficult, so Eric Musselman and company will have eyes on number 3. That'll wrap up Big Ten Breakdown. Stay tuned weekly as we approach the Big Ten tournament. Let's toss it back to the guys at the desk to hear more about USC storylines.
With all eyes on the hardwood, USC athletes are making bigger waves in other sports. Diving into victory is the number 16th ranked USC men's swimming team, who won all 14 events against the UNLV Rebels Friday, February 7th. On the horizon, the women's squad travels to Columbus, Ohio for the Big Ten Conference Championship.
USC women's lacrosse received a routing at the hands of former Pac-12 rival Stanford, 18-6. Maddie Dora led the Trojans with 3 goals, but her effort wasn't enough to take down the Cardinal.
And USC track and field had a huge weekend in New Mexico. One of the highlights was the men's 400, where USC swept the top 3, including Johnny Blockberger, setting the 3rd best indoor time in school history. The standout performances across the board moved the men's track team up to number 1 ranked in the nation. So it was dominance in a couple of Olympic sports for the Trojans, but lacrosse will look to turn things around this week. And it's Valentine's week, so what could be better than the loving duo of Thomas and Terrence? Over to you guys.
Welcome back to another semester of Trojan of the Week for my final semester at USC. My name is Thomas Johnson alongside Terrence Holton. First of all, happy Valentine's Week, buddy.
Happy Valentine's to you.
And to start off this semester, I'm picking Michal Chmielewski of Swim and Dive. The 2024 Olympian from Poland helped USC to a sweep over UNLV, winning the 100-yard backstroke and swimming the butterfly leg of the 200-yard medley relay. His 46.21 backstroke time was the fastest time by a USC swimmer in that event this season.
Well, Thomas, I guess we should have worn our swim trunks because for my Trojan of the Week, we also stay at UTangso Aquatic Center. For my Trojan, USC Women's Water Polo's leading scorer, Emily Osmus. This past weekend against Biola and number 6 UC Irvine, Osmus led the Trojans with 16 total goal involvements across the 2 games. Osmus also upped her point tally to 61 on the year for the first-ranked Trojans. All right, Thomas, you mentioned it's your last semester here. I'll let you go first on this one.
Well, I really appreciate that. And I'm just going to point out the fact that Tilly Kearns was actually the MPSF Player of the Week for women's water polo.
And I think that was the wrong choice.
Osmus.
And I think that was the wrong choice. I'm just going to be completely honest. I mean, if you just look at the statistics, Osmus led her in both games in goals and assists, in total points in both.
Well, I mean, one of those games happened against Biola. I just want to point that out.
You're not wrong.
There.
It was 8 in both, though. It was 8 total points in both.
It was a good performance from Osmus, but she didn't win MPSF Player of the Week because there's more to water polo. There's more to water polo than just points. But let's talk about Chmielewski because he was 1 second off the USC record in his 100-yard backstroke time. That's pretty impressive, especially with a program that has 90 NCAA solo titles. Yeah. And he is 1 second off of the 100-yard backstroke record.
I just don't think that you can really compare the competition. I mean, you look at UC Irvine, compared to UNLV, it's out in Nevada, it's Las Vegas.
But part of your argument is about Biola. Tell me where Biola is. What city of California?
Let's be honest though. UNLV is not real competition to Chmielewski. I know it's obviously time-based, but compared to like the swimming, can they even swim out there? It's more barren than a USC football game on a Friday night.
But Terrence, my argument isn't that he beat UNLV. My argument is that he had the fastest swim in the 100-yard backstroke this season, and it was 1 second off the USC record. And beyond that, let's just talk about his season. He's top 5.
I think you could argue that his brother Krzysztof Chmielewski was even better. He swept both his events as well. I just think that when you have to choose one of them, maybe you chose them both, but you can't do that, unfortunately.
Well, Mihal did better than Krzysztof because he made the NCAA cut for the 100-yard backstroke. I think that's just a more impressive performance.
Maybe. Now, unfortunately, I'd love to debate him a little bit more, but coming up, the guys give us some of the hot takes for the upcoming Crosstown Showdown. And Daniel talks about how some of the biggest trades affected the NBA.
The NBA trade deadline has come and gone, and with it, a wave of roster shakeups that could reshape the playoff picture in the National Basketball Association. We bring in Daniel Palmore for more. Daniel, Luka Doncic, and Jimmy Butler debuted in their new threads this week. Which teams got better, and who's still searching for answers?
That's right, Liam. With the All-Star break coming up and the trade deadline in the rear-view mirror, some of the biggest names in the game are already dominating on their new teams. Luka Magic has made its way to Los Angeles as Doncic made his much-anticipated Lakers debut on Monday against the Utah Jazz. LA cruised to a 132-113 win, and in his first game since Christmas Day, he scored 14 points as every fan in attendance was given a Luka Doncic-themed t-shirt. And Jimmy Butler reminded fans why he's called Jimmy Buckets in his first 2 games with the Warriors. Golden State came up with wins against Milwaukee and Chicago, and Butler averaged 22.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists through those 2 games. And Anthony Davis wasted no time asserting his dominance in a Dallas uniform, but his performance was cut short due to a left adductor strain he suffered against the Houston Rockets and is expected to miss multiple weeks. He totaled 26 points in his Mavs debut. And guys, with all these trades around the association, what were your biggest takeaways from this year's trade deadline?
Well, I'll jump in first. I want to talk about maybe a lack thereof with the Lakers trade to the Charlotte Hornets getting rescinded. Mark Williams will not join the Lakers and Dalton Knecht will not join the Hornets. I think that's huge considering now, obviously the Lakers yesterday signed Alex Len and have Jackson Hayes, but the center depth is just not there, and I think it's going to be really hard for them to space the floor, play that pick and roll type of basketball they like to play. Daniel, what are your thoughts on that move?
Yeah, for sure. The Mark Williams trade, it not working out for the Lakers, definitely a huge blow in my opinion because they needed a big man with Anthony Davis being out of there. But hey, maybe Alex Len will be the solution that they're looking for in LA.
To me, Daniel, it seems like right now there's 6 people realistically who have NBA championship opportunities. I'm going OKC, Cleveland, Boston, Denver, the Lakers now, and Oklahoma City. Are there any teams that you see coming out on top of that? And do you think anybody can beat the Lakers with this new deal?
I do think right now I would say that the Lakers aren't the team to beat in the West. I'll give respect to Oklahoma City. But Liam, I mostly agree with you. I would say that OKC should be favorited in the West as of right now. And then I got the Celtics in the East because I don't think any team made good enough moves to really challenge them in a playoff setting. Right. I did like the move that the Cavs made to acquire DeAndre Hunter. I think that's a really nice piece that they can throw in there with their 4 key guys. But I want to talk about the Western Conference play-ins because I think it got a lot more interesting. You have the Warriors who were really sputtering, acquiring Jimmy Butler. You have the Mavericks who make that, confounding move and move on to Anthony Davis. But they still would be a good team if they were healthy. Now they're not healthy. We'll see how, what they end up doing for the rest of the season. Then the Spurs acquiring De'Aaron Fox, they have a chance to climb up into the play-in. So how do you see that shaking out?
Yeah, lots of really big moves. I would say that, the championship favorites didn't really change at all, in my opinion. But as we wrap up, we got to also shout out the Chris Middleton, Kyle Kuzma swap. Let's see how that works out for the Bucks. But as the home stretch of the regular season creeps closer, it will be exciting to see which of these teams which of these moves will provide a championship push. But guys, what should we be looking for in tomorrow's Crosstown Showdown?
Well, the upcoming women's basketball matchup between UCLA and USC could be an instant classic between 2 top teams still navigating the brand new Big Ten. I'm sure you guys have a lot on your minds heading into tomorrow, but I just want to ask you guys this question. Is there a hot take you want to declare now ahead of this really highly anticipated matchup?
I'm going to keep it short and simple. I think that the USC women's bench will outscore the UCLA women's bench. UCLA has been a team known for their depth all season long. The USC bench, though, against Ohio State, 20 combined points. I think that's going to be pivotal for this game.
Right. My take is honestly pretty similar. I think Avery Howell has a big game. I'm saying at least 12 points for her. She shot the 3-ball really well down the stretch, had a huge game against Purdue a couple of weeks ago with 18 points. I think she could end up being one of the top 2 scorers, outscoring either Juju or Kiki for USC.
Now, I know earlier I picked UCLA to win this game, but I honestly am going to anticipate them struggling from beyond the arc. They're 11th in the Big Ten in 3-point percentage, whereas USC on the other side is a really good perimeter defensive team, with Juju Watkins especially. So I think UCLA is going to struggle from deep. But that's just about going to do things for us here on Sports Scene. Come back next week for some more sports chit-chat. I'm Casey Kasliner.
I'm Liam Irvin.
And I'm Chris Joyce Nixon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.